Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Labor Day weekend should bring crowds to beaches, but sewage spills are continuing to cause problems in the South Bay. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Hundreds of people gathered on Coronado's Central Beach this afternoon to express their outrage over the continued cross-border pollution. And KPBS reporter John Carroll is live in Coronado with more for us now. John?
Maya, they gathered right here on Coronado's Central Beach. As a matter of fact, a lot of them are still down there. You can see as my photographer Roland pushes in down there. They gathered and they had a very familiar message. What we heard was anger and frustration over a situation that, despite promises from governments, just doesn't seem to be getting any better. So if you just stumbled on this gathering, it wouldn't take you long to figure out what was going on. It was right there on all the signs. I noticed Coronado Mayor Richard Bailey and former Imperial Beach Mayor Serge Dedina in the crowd, but mostly it was just concerned citizens that have had it when it comes to sewage contaminating these beautiful waters. Rose Moran drove all the way down from Carlsbad to make her voice heard.
The Tijuana River is so toxic that when they go in sometimes to try to clean it, their boots actually melt. And then they need to, on the side of San Diego, do a water treatment plant.
Maya, we just got word a short time ago from Governor Newsom's office that today, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the U.S. International Boundary and Water Commission committed to commence a major rehabilitation and expansion of the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant in San Ysidro. So we will see. Let me just give you a couple more details about that. They say they've already initiated repairs to damage caused to the treatment plant by Tropical Storm Hillary. Also that the EPA will transfer approximately, reading this because I just got this, $350 million that has been appropriated for work on this project. Also, the federal partners committed to begin a coordinated funding strategy to provide further resources to complete the expansion and also of associated projects in the area. It is certainly something that these folks want to see, and many more thousands that are no doubt coming to the beaches this Labor Day weekend, and oh, how they'd love to go in that water. Maya?
Well, some cooler conditions stick around. At times, some showery weather and some gusty winds. I'll let you know when temperatures begin to warm back up and things dry out. That's all coming up.
Well, this year's Labor Day marks a high point for union organizing in San Diego. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the labor movement is fired up after a hot labor summer.
United flight attendants picketed outside San Diego Airport Thursday, calling on the airline to meet their demands for better wages, health care, and staffing levels. Timothy Truman is a flight attendant and union leader. He says wages have not kept up with the skyrocketing cost of living.
United Airlines' flight attendants, sure, when you're a senior, you have decent wages, but our newest flight attendants, they need a living wage. Right now, many of them are living 20 to a crash pad, to an apartment. They don't live in the town where they're based because they can't afford to get an apartment.
Get up! Get down! San Diego's a union town!
San Diego is a union town, more than it ever has been. Polling suggests public support for labor unions is at its highest in more than 50 years, and that's reflected in a staunchly pro-labor mayor and city council. Bridget Browning, head of the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council, says she sees more women in union leadership roles, and that union members are increasingly willing to flex their power and go on strike.
When I first started my career, strikes were very rare, and now you're coming across them very frequently, which I think is an amazing way to empower workers. And two, I think young workers in particular are really hungry for unions in their workplace, and we're seeing organizing happen all over the place in different industries.
That includes emerging industries like retail, with 2 Starbucks locations in San Diego County unionizing this year, and unions are expanding in longtime labor strongholds like healthcare, with employees at Sharp Grossmont Hospital winning their fight to unionize in July. Now, flight attendants, actors, writers, auto workers, and more are hoping to keep their momentum and turn hot labor summer into hot labor fall. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Well, Labor Day weekend is here, but can those of us who need to make a final summer sojourn relax just yet? Mike Valerio previews the holiday travel scene.
The summer vacation came back this year with a vengeance.
This weekend is capping what TSA reports is the busiest summer travel period on record.
And is ending with a boom.
FAA expects close to 50,000 flights today.
The TSA projects today will be the busiest day of the Labor Day weekend. More than 14 million passengers potentially packing airports now through September 6th. But on the horizon, a possible strike of American Airlines flight attendants, who overwhelmingly voted this week to authorize such a move. We asked Stan Sandberg of TravelInsurance.com if this weekend's travel could be affected.
You really don't have to be worried, but you should be aware of the changing circumstances.
And if you're heading to Florida, where Idalia canceled hundreds of flights earlier this week, briefly closing Tampa's airport, there's good news on that front.
There may be some residual delays, but I think most people can expect to have a pretty normal travel experience traveling to Florida.
However, travel experts also say to keep an eye on local guidance in the Sunshine State and consider rebooking if your plans include visiting some of the harder hit areas. For road trippers, gas prices are higher than usual for this time of year. The average hovering just over $3.80 a gallon this week, according to AAA. That's just a bit less than where we were this time last year. In Los Angeles, I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
California Highway Patrol will be intensifying patrols during the holiday weekend. The maximum enforcement period is scheduled to run starting at 6 p.m. today through 11:59 p.m. on Monday. It's part of an annual effort to get intoxicated and unsafe drivers off of our roads. It's been a month since San Diego police began enforcing the city's camping ban. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman checks in on how it's going.
The Unsafe Camping Ordinance prohibits encampments at all times near sensitive areas. That includes schools, parks, transit centers, and homeless shelters. Encampments also are not allowed in public when shelter beds are available. We have some enforcement numbers for August. The city says they've done 85 field interviews and given 4 citations with no arrests. Around parks and schools is where enforcement is happening first. The city says it has a 3-level process for enforcement. A field interview is the first contact. That's where people are told about the law and shelter options. If that person is still not in compliance, a second contact could result in a citation, and a third contact could be an arrest. Outreach is being done in areas before any enforcement happens. The city is still doing regular encampment cleanups and property removal. Friday morning, there were crews near 9th Avenue downtown. Aside from the Unsafe Camping Ordinance, there are other violations that could result in an unsheltered resident being cited or arrested. That includes illegal lodging and encroachment. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
You can expect major detours and delays in the coming weeks if you commute on Interstate 5 near downtown. Caltrans announced an emergency repair project for the bridge over State Route 163. Crews will close lanes for repairs for 56 hours at a time. The first closure will affect southbound lanes beginning at Interstate 8 from 9 p.m. September 8th until 5 a.m. September 11th. The second closure will affect northbound lanes in the same area from 9 p.m. September 29th to 5 a.m. October 2nd.
This anticipated planned closure, will cause a significant impact to traffic flow. So I want to emphasize to you again, to plan ahead, start now determining an alternate route of travel to the downtown area, and give yourself ample amount of time to reach your destination.
More information will be announced in the coming weeks. It's a new month, and with it, an old problem, a potential government shutdown. The Biden administration is calling on Congress to pass a temporary spending bill to keep Washington running. Current funding is set to expire by the end of the month when the current fiscal year ends. The White House says a continuing resolution is needed to pay for assistance programs.
This is what they are supposed to do, make sure that the government works, and key vital pieces of programs continue to get funded.
We put out a budget, we show the enormity of the problem, and yet nobody wants to continue to address it.
The Senate returns from summer break next week. The House comes back September 12th. As we head into the Labor Day holiday and people are planning to travel or gather with friends, San Diego County is reporting the highest number of COVID infections in a month since March. KPBS reporter Melissa May has this update.
In August, San Diego County recorded more than 4,700 COVID-19 cases. That's more than double the number of infections in May and June. About a third of the infections last month were in people over 60. UC San Diego Associate Professor of Public Health, Rebecca Fielding Miller, says the increase could be due in part to children going back to school.
Everybody's coming back from summer vacation. You have a lot of kids and adults in a new space. And yeah, there will definitely be transmission.
But she says that's not the only reason for the rise in cases.
This interaction of more people are seeking out tests and more people are getting sick, and it's sort of multiplicative, which is why you would see a rise in the caseload. So it's kind of good, actually, that you're seeing more cases because it means that more people are getting tested.
Dr. William Sang with Kaiser Permanente San Diego says the county data doesn't capture all infections since many people test at home. He says the current wastewater numbers are a fairly good reflection of how much virus is in the community.
If you're looking at the number of viral load wastewater versus, August of last year, where it was 15 million versus 1.5 million. So it's, 1-2 million, maybe about tenfold difference. So the number of cases, even though is going up and we've got to be careful, it is not to a point where we need to all oh my God, everything needs to be implemented again.
According to Dr. Sang, while symptoms of the new dominant COVID variant are similar to the original virus, current vaccines may not provide great protection against it.
The key thing to know is that the Eris is also a variant related to XBB, which is a variant of Omicron. So we've seen this before. It's nothing new. Certainly in terms of vaccination response, it's something that we're looking at very closely to make sure that you are still going to be protected from the virus.
Sang recommends getting your flu vaccine now and waiting on getting a COVID-19 booster until it includes protection against the Eris and XBB subvariants. Those new vaccines are expected later this year. But if you are flying during this holiday weekend, Fielding Miller recommends wearing a mask.
There's going to just be a lot of people in an airplane, and that there's just a lot of people breathing the same air, and there's just all sorts of things in that air besides COVID. So it's also a great time to wear a mask, even if just on the airplane or while you're boarding or deplaning.
And also encourages people to celebrate outdoors. Melissa May, KPBS News.
The San Diego Humane Society has an overpopulation problem. For months, they've been over capacity, especially when it comes to dogs. But one San Diegan is doing what he can to help. KPBS reporter John Carroll introduces us to a dog groomer who brings an artistic touch to help pooches find loving homes.
At the San Diego Humane Society's El Cajon campus, dog groomer Gabe Feitosa is making his monthly visit. He's transforming this little guy named Minnow into a tiger. Feitosa's passion for this work began years ago when he was a boy growing up in challenging circumstances in the favelas of Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Even before I started doing dog grooming, I thought I was going to be an artist. I love to draw, I love to paint.
Feitosa also had a passion for dogs. He started helping a dog groomer in his hometown. Eventually, the grooming and the artistic spark came together. He made his way to San Diego in 2014 and now has his own dog grooming business in University Heights. There, he charges anywhere between $500 and $1,700 to transform dogs into walking works of art. He appeared on an ABC show called Pooch Perfect in the summer of 2021 and quickly gained national attention. Then last December, he had an idea.
I was trying to find a way to give back, so I reached out to the Humane Society and was like, hey guys, what if we transform your guys' dogs and bring attention not only for the dogs that are getting transformed to get adopted right away, but to the cause.
More on the cause in a moment, but first, a look at how this all works. A Humane Society team selects a dog or dogs that would typically get looked over, like our friend Minnow, and this beautiful girl. This is Nyla. Her family had to give her up.
This tail is gonna look like $1 million.
Feitosa employs a dazzling array of colors. All the dye is vegan and non-toxic, doesn't harm the dogs in any way. But it's a challenge. How many artists do you know that have to contend with a canvas that moves? After the dog gets their color, they get a bath. Then, time for blow drying. And finally a trim. And voila, the canine spa treatment is finished, the transformation complete. After the Feitosa treatment, the artist always takes pictures and videos of his subjects. You see, Feitosa has huge numbers of people following him on social media, more than 2 million on TikTok, and another 500,000 on Instagram.
There, sit down.
In addition to donating his time, Feitosa also pays for adoption and any other fees for dogs that have gotten his special treatment. He wants to remove any barriers that would keep someone from adopting one of these furry friends. He says it's all worth it when he finds out the dogs have in fact been adopted.
It fills me with joy, especially because we focus on transforming the dogs that actually need more attention. Really big dogs that have a hard time getting adopted, dogs that are dropped off here when they're like 9-10 years old. They have a much harder time than a puppy or a small dog. So we really focus on doing those guys. So when I hear that those guys get adopted, I'm just like over the moon. I'm just grateful that I get to do it.
So far, Feitosa's batting average is almost 1,000. We shot this story in early August, and unfortunately, Nyla is still here. But all the others are now in loving homes. Still, there are so many more waiting for that special person or family. The San Diego Humane Society is at 170% of capacity across its 4 campuses. So if you've been thinking about bringing some canine love into your life, now's the time to do it. Rainbow colors or not. John Carroll, KPBS News.
What a terrific story. Well, smoke-sniffing drones could be the future of fighting wildfires in California. Marley Ginter reports.
When a wildfire breaks out, early detection is key in stopping it from spreading.
Once it grows, it's out of control. It's very difficult.
CAL FIRE's goal is to get on scene quickly and contain 95% of all fires to just 10 acres or less. Now, drones may be the latest technology that help detect wildland blazes as soon as they break out.
We're going to have a swarm of them.
A team of mechanical aerospace engineers at UC Davis are building these drones.
The official name is an octocopter.
Equipped with detectors that can sniff out smoke.
We have sensors for particulate matter, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide.
They say it works much like a search dog's nose.
You track the sense, and then you track the sense, and you'll figure out that you eventually get to the location of the wildfire.
The onboard air samplers are so sensitive, they can detect smoke before it becomes visible to cameras or the human eye.
Even down to the nanomoles, like very small amounts.
The drone can then follow the trail to pinpoint the precise origin of the fire and quickly alert firefighters.
Our hope is basically we can catch or detect the wildfire as early as possible. And that means that the damage caused by the fire will be minimized.
And with the potential to protect millions of dollars worth of property, the drones are actually pretty economical.
And the whole thing is about $2,000.
The engineers have been working with CAL FIRE, experimenting with the drones on several prescribed burns, and so far, they've seen success.
You need to show them that it works, and then you can gradually incorporate this into their workflow.
That was Marley Ginter reporting. Death Valley National Park remains closed after being hit by the remnants of Tropical Storm Hillary. The park saw its rainiest day ever on August 20th, causing historic flooding. Erosion, damaged roads, and debris still being removed, reshaped the popular tourist destination.
Really shows you the power of water. It comes down, it cuts along the bank, cuts away that shoulder, and then eventually it can start cutting into the pavement. We don't have these soils, we don't have this vegetation to absorb all that moisture.
Caltrans says 2 emergency contracts have been approved to repair the roads. It will cost more than $6 million.
Taking a look at our weather headlines, watching some areas of showers still possible as we head throughout the start of our weekend, even into Sunday. Meanwhile, the winds kicking up into the mountains and deserts, and we've had some cooler temperatures, but we will be watching a gradual warming trend as we head into next week. Looking at some of those showers here still as we head throughout tonight, a lot of that heavy rain in spots like Vegas, but we'll be watching some of that shower activity kind of dwindle down as we head into parts of our weekend. What we can expect as we head into tonight when it comes to temperatures in San Diego County: 73 in Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna 57, Oceanside 70 degrees, and San Diego 70 degrees through tonight. Tracking this front here, moving on through out ahead of that, that's where the stormy conditions will be. Phoenix up to Cedar City, Salt Lake City. We'll be watching some of those cooler temperatures still taking over as we head throughout our day on Saturday. Temperature-wise, that means we'll see low 90s at Borrego Springs, 62 in Mount Laguna, but San Diego, you'll stay around 77, and Oceanside will have temperatures around 80 degrees. Into the day on Sunday we go, and there could still be some thunderstorms around. Otherwise, temperatures still may be a little bit below the historical average as we do close out the weekend. Here's a look at the 5-day outlook for the coast, where things are going to stay pretty steady in the upper 70s and lower 80s over the next couple of days. Could see some more sunshine moving through for Monday and Tuesday, where temperatures eventually overnight drop back into the 50s. Look at your 5-day outlook inland as temperatures are dropping here as we head into Sunday and Monday into the upper 70s, overnight lows in the 50s and 60s, and then back to the 80s for Tuesday and Wednesday. Look at your 5-day outlook in the mountains. Low 60s carry us through the weekend. It will get a little bit breezy, especially on Sunday, and cooler temperatures stick around as we head into the first half of next week. Looking into the deserts, low 90s, not too bad for Saturday and Sunday. Plenty of sunshine and some warmer temperatures for next week. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
It's always 5 o'clock at the corner of 6th and J. SDSU's Miro Kopik has more on what's new in the gas lamp in the Friday Business Report.
The Solamar Hotel has been renamed the Margaritaville Hotel. There are a number of hotels around the country called Margaritaville Hotels in Las Vegas and Orlando, and it's all creating, behind that Jimmy Buffett vibe of his fans, the Parrot Heads, and it's really a remake of a very successful hotel in downtown San Diego. And the Jimmy Buffett brand sells well in San Diego. In fact, Jimmy Buffett inaugurated Snapdragon Stadium in May with the first concert, so it is kind of propitious that this was launched at this time. And the Trust is very excited because they're not only opening this hotel in downtown San Diego, but they've had plans on the books to open another Margaritaville hotel in Mission Bay. That hotel has been stalled. That has been recently resolved, and the Trust that owns the hotel is going to go before the Coastal Commission next month to see if they can get approval. So there may be 2 Margaritaville hotels in San Diego, and for both tourists and locals to enjoy.
And that was SDSU marketing lecturer Miro Kopik. Halloween is still more than a month away, but if you're already feeling the spirit, KPBS Cinema junkie Beth Accomando has some horror picks to recommend.
Michelle Hazanavicius won an Oscar for directing the French film The Artist, so I'm not sure what possessed him to take on the dual challenge of doing a remake and a zombie film, neither of which gets much respect. But the result is a blood-splattered Valentine to the passion and teamwork it takes to make a movie. Final Cut is a nesting doll of reanimated corpses. It's a French remake of the Japanese zombie film One Cut of the Dead, which was about a movie crew whose horror shoot is disrupted by real zombies.
Un film de zombies? Et attends, alors l'autre truc, c'est que ça doit être un plan séquence.
The gimmick in both is that the opening sequence is a 30-minute single take of gory mayhem, followed by a replay of the sequence from a hilarious behind-the-scenes perspective. So the very meta end product is a film within a film within a film. Final Cut is ultimately a delight, but I urge people to be patient with the bad zombie makeup, stupid script, and dubious acting of the one-shot opening. Trust me, it all pays off deliciously in the end, and you'll leave the cinema inspired to get your friends together to make a ridiculous blood-soaked zombie film of your own. But horror of a more serious nature is available streaming on Shudder. Jennifer Reeder's Perpetrator pulls something of a bait and switch, but in a good way. It sets you up for sadistic horror involving young girls, but just as you're about to settle into formulaic expectations, it changes course. Or rather, it takes a more interesting and circuitous route to the final girl resolution. Johnny is our final girl, and she's a bit wild. She's also about to discover something about a family curse or spell that takes effect on a girl's 18th birthday.
A girl like you cannot afford to be stupid and selfish.
And when several teen girls go missing at her new school, she decides to turn her curse to her advantage. Reeder's film has high ambitions as it whips up a cocktail of horror styles. There's a lot to appreciate, but Reeder lacks the mastery of craft that's needed to bring all these elements together in a seamless manner. But there's enough of interest on display to make it worth checking out on Shudder. And while you're on Shudder, make sure you also watch One Cut of the Dead. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.